This is Awakening. I'm Chandra Prasad and we welcome our viewers around the world. The topic for the day is instant gratification. And to talk about instant gratification, I have here with me a religious scholar and motivational speaker, Shree Santa Poudel. Santa Ji, let me welcome you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me once again.
All right. A renowned Australian poet, Judith Wright, says, as we get past our superficial material wants and instant gratification, we connect into the deeper parts of ourselves as well as others and universe. So there is a lot of talk about instant gratification. How do you define instant gratification?
It's a deep philosophical question first.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking this question. When we have to choose between the pain of discipline and patience versus the ease and comfort of distraction, and we follow the latter, it is to choose inaction despite knowing that we need some action towards our goal, but we let it go and we forego our long-term benefits for short, fleeting pleasures that are at hand. In simplest terms, if we go watch a movie or if we are engaged in games versus reading our textbook and doing our presentation for tomorrow, preparing for our exam tomorrow, doing our project, it is to be in the bed longer than you need to and being complacent versus toiling and sweating towards our goal. It often manifests as procrastination, that we defer our actions for later. Like, hey, I don't want to do it today, I want to defer it to tomorrow. It is a form of self-sabotage. What it means by that is that we let our goals slip away from us in pursuit of our temporary pleasures and goals. So it happens when the pleasures of the moment feel so enticing. Sleeping a little longer, hey, let me sleep 5 more minutes. That seems so enticing. Then the temporary pain that we would experience in pursuit of our goals.
It's like temptation.
It's a temptation. It comes in a form of temptation. Yeah. Extra sleep, being complacent, deferring our actions for later, procrastination. All these terms are directly associated with instant gratification. So it is a deep philosophical question, and when it becomes a habit, right, we desire to experiment pleasure and fulfillment now without any delay or deferment, right? So instead of cooking at home healthy meal, we'll go to McDonald's or Burger King and eat all those junk foods, right? Instead of going and working out, we crave for sugar and ice cream and all that, when our goal is to lose weight and be slim or whatnot. So when that happens and we cannot resist the temptation of that pleasure that comes with whatever is there, and we rather defer our long-term pain versus the short-term pain of doing the exercises or practice those processes, then it happens. So it is a deep philosophical theme, and there's a lot of talk about instant gratification, and for your material and spiritual pursuit of what it may, it is one of the greatest hurdles in your personal growth. So that's why in Vedic terms it's defined by the word Maya, something that hinder you from reaching your goals. So it's a hurdle, so it is recommended that you avoid it by all means.
We talked about instant gratification, but we're living in a world where we're looking for instant gratification, or this impatience that we have. But there is another term in gratification which is called delayed gratification, also called as deferred gratification. What is the definition of delayed gratification? Is there any distinction between instant versus the delayed gratification?
They're different. I mean, instant gratification is in direct opposition to delayed gratification. As the word suggests, delayed meaning deferred, resisting the temptation of immediate rewards or immediate pleasure in preference for rewards that are more satisfying, more enduring, and that give more or higher payoff in the future is what we call delayed gratification. We have all heard a classic example of instant versus delayed gratification. There was a race between two animals, a rabbit and a tortoise, right? So they're into the races. The rabbit runs really fast, the tortoise is on a slow pace. And when the rabbit gets to the middle distance, he realizes that, oh, the tortoise is too far back, let me take a rest. And rest is history, right? He falls asleep and the tortoise keep walking or running and it's one speed, and eventually when the rabbit realizes that, oh, it's too late, the tortoise is near to the goal line, to the mark, right? And the tortoise wins. So delayed gratification is something that we defer, the gratification, the pleasure or the comfort that immediate things in mind give us in return for greater goals that may come in the future. There was an experiment by Walter Mischel in 1960s and 1970s in Stanford universities. So they experimented how the preschoolers would react to marshmallow. And these were 4-year-old kids. They were put in a room and they had one marshmallow in each table. So they were given two choices. Either they could ring the bell so that the interviewer or the experimenter would come and give them the marshmallow, or they could wait for 15 minutes until the experimenter comes back and then they could get 2 marshmallows, right? And it turns out that most of those kids tried to resist for a while. A lot of could not, and they rang the bell and they didn't last for a while. Only a few could wait for that long. And it turned out that when they followed up on those kids who chose instant gratification versus delayed gratification, that those who could wait for 15 minutes for that extra reward in form of marshmallow, they had higher SAT scores, they had higher social competence, higher self-worth, they turned out to be better planners and had better reasoning when it came to understanding lives and all that. So whether you want to choose small rewards now or you want to choose bigger rewards later, the main goal of the research was to find what these kids would choose. So delayed gratification relates to patience, self-control, and something that strengthens mind because it comes when we forego fleeting pleasures to gain significant long-term pleasures, right? Let's say we want to be a doctor or we want to be physically fit. Instead of sleeping late or eating unhealthy junky foods or being complacent, you're spending time in the library or you're working out in the gym, you're making salads, you're eating healthy. So although you may have the craving for ice cream when you're in diet or you're planning to lose your weight, right? You are deferring that for your long-term benefits. When you're slim, you experience the reward. That's long-term, that is more satisfying, more enduring. So delayed gratification is in direct opposition to instant gratification, and a lot of people do not have the skill to delay gratification because, like I said, we're talking about being physically fit or being doctor, and we talked about self-confidence and motivation and things of that nature. A lot of people fall prey to instant gratification because a lot of our goals are far-fetched. They are not achieved overnight, right? And the processes in between are overwhelming. They are not satisfying. They are not gratifying. So when that happens, oh, let me sleep 2 more hours. Hey, the exam is next week, so let me enjoy going out to the club tonight, or let me enjoy watching a movie. So it is gratifying, it is instant, and they are more fun-filled than, you know, going to the library alone and studying for 5 hours. So a lot of people choose to do things that are instantly gratifying versus delay gratification for longer term benefits. And it is, like I said earlier, it is recommended that we develop that skill of delayed gratification.
So this delayed gratification is so rewarding at the end. But why do we fall into this trap of instant gratification?
Because it is instantly gratifying, right? So sleeping that extra 5 minutes, snoozing off our alarm is fun, right? Eating burgers, eating French fries, right? They taste so good. Having said that, you know, instant gratification is not rewarding, and it is avoiding. It is something that we should avoid. There are different factors that play into it. There are different reasons why we choose instant gratification. Uncertainty is one, right? When we are uncertain about our long-term future in terms of whether we reach our goal or not. Let's say I'm not sure whether I will ever be able to be physically fit. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to lose 20 pounds, right? So when the goal is not certain, when there's uncertainty lingering over our goals, it is easy for us to fall victim to instant gratification because you don't know whether you reach that goal or not. There's individual threshold for delay. How long can you wait for your long-term goals before until which you resist the temptation of instant gratification, right? The marshmallow experiment. If the kids had to wait 3 hours to get that next marshmallow, probably there would not be a single kid in there. So there's a threshold for everyone to which we defer, until which we defer our gratification. So there's the threshold. There are a lot of neurocognitive factors, how we frame the situation. Depending on that, we will choose whether to go for instant gratification or delayed gratification. There are behavioral factors, right? So our adaptive skills, if the reward is too appealing, we can delay the gratification, right? So let's say if you promise to give me $5,000 today for doing certain task. If I wait 5 more days, if you're willing to give me $20,000, right? So if the reward is too appealing, then I can delay gratification. So it also depends on the reward that the goal accomplishment brings. Impulsiveness, imagination, whether we have visualized our goals, right? Because we have been talking about this a lot of times, that between your goal and yourself, there are a lot of processes. If the goal is too far-fetched and we haven't visualized it, right? It's so easy for us to fall victim to that trap. Anticipation, our confidence. Sometimes lack of confidence and overconfidence both lead us to fall into that trap. Just we gave you the example of the rabbit, right? He was overconfident that, hey, I run way too faster than the tortoise, and if I sleep for 5 minutes, I'll easily beat him. So that overconfidence made him lose the race. So in distinguishing instant gratification and delayed gratification, let me tell you a story. In an ancient kingdom of Kasi in India, there was a provision that anyone willing to be the king of that place could become the king. The only condition there was that the person could be the king for 5 years only for 5 years. After that, on the last day of the completion of 5th year, the king would be handcuffed and ferried across the river on a boat. And there was a big jungle, big forest with a lot of all these wild beasts, right, and snakes and every animal.
So the situation is fearsome.
Yeah. So fearsome situation.
Mm-hmm.
So This guy that ruled the kingdom for 5 years is taken through the river on a boat, handcuffed. And the guy that's sailing the boat is surprised by the demeanor of this king. He's smiling. All the kings prior to him on that day would be nervous, and they would be dreadful of the impending consequence awaiting them. They were about to die. But this guy's smiling, right? So the sailman, the guy sailing the boat, asked him, "Hey, I'm surprised by your demeanor. Are you thinking of escaping the boat or something? What is in your mind? You're about to die, but I'm surprised by your demeanor. I'm surprised by your expression. What is going on?" And the king, soon to be dethroned from the kingdom, he says, "Hey, there's nothing for me to worry about." A lot of the kings in the past, they fell victim to instant gratification. They enjoyed being the king. They misused their power. They lead the luxurious life imaginable without any regard for what was about to happen to them. But I did something differently. When I became the king, I realized that I was going to be a king only for 5 years. The first year I became the king, I sent the army to that forest and cut down all the trees. Next year, I killed all the wild beasts and serpents. Third year, I construct houses and buildings and roads and develop all the infrastructure needed for it to be a state. And the fourth year, I sent some of my trusted, most loyal people there to administer the kingdom. And this is the fifth year. Now I'm going to the other side of this kingdom, which is more glorious, more prosperous, and in that kingdom I'll be the king as long as I live. Do you think I still gotta worry about anything? So we have all the resources we need now. The resources are limited though. The time is limited for us to reach our goals. If we waste our time, if we waste our resources, what happens? We regret and live in remorse. When we are about to die, when we are weak, there is nothing but regrets and remorse for what we didn't do versus what we could have done. When you gotta live with that, when you are forced to live with that faded memory of remorse and repentance, there is nothing worse than living that life. So all those factors is uncertainty, anticipation, lack of confidence or overconfidence. These factors play into it. And like we said, instant gratification is instantly gratifying. The kids want to play video games for hours, right? They don't want to go to school. We probably didn't want to go to school when we were young, right? But those are not beneficial for our long-term goals and reaching our goals and meeting those potentials that we have, right? So you gotta pay attention to what you could do by deferring those instant gratifications and postponing those temptations or staving off those temptations. If we can do that, if we learn the skills to defer gratification, a lot of successful people, a lot of renowned people that we know today, we remember, we read about in books, they had that confidence, they had that motivation that allowed them to persevere in their goals. They failed many times, but they didn't fall victim to that hopelessness and instant gratification. They didn't get into alcohol. They got into the lab again and worked on it and saw what was not working and what was about to work. So they researched, they explored, they studied, and that's how they succeeded. Be it Abraham Lincoln, be it several successful people, right? They failed many times, but they didn't fall victim to instant gratification. They persevere and they succeeded. So it is really important that we learn the skill of delayed gratification, because no big achievement is possible without delayed gratification.
So as you gave that example of king, we actually planned knowing what is going to happen to him in 5 years. So he planned very carefully. So when thinking about that, this comes in my mind that there is a human psychology behind it. You know, the instant gratification versus the delayed gratification. It comes into preparation, planning, in the thinking, right? So what is the relationship with that?
We talked a lot about different behavioral factors and neurocognitive factors that are affecting whether we choose to go with instant gratification or delayed gratification. How we frame the situation. And we have been talking...
So what I'm trying to ask here is, what determines that? I mean, some people do this way, some people do that way. So is it the nature? Is it the genetic home? Or is it, what is it that people behave differently?
It is a learned skill to me.
Oh, okay.
Right? How you are brought up, your socioeconomic status plays into it. If you are born poor, if poverty has been a part of your life, you don't care whether you get salad or you get a burger, right? You would probably go for a burger because it tastes good. There are many other situations that play into it. But what matters, we've been talking about staying motivated and staying focused and all that. If you don't have the confidence that you can achieve your goal, if you are not motivated enough, and if your goal is not driving you, it's easy for you to fall victim to instant gratification. And if it is too far-fetched, it's hard for you to stay focused on your goal and not be distracted or not procrastinate, right? If it is as important as breathing for you, if your goal is more important than anything else in this world, there is no way you fall victim to instant gratification. You want to go to gym, you don't know whether you can lose your weight. You are planning for it for years or for months, but you don't have that confidence that you can ever have a slim, fit body. What happens? You oversleep, right? You defer going to the gym for next day. You don't go for two days, you build a habit out of it. You don't feel like going there anymore. So if the goal is singularly focused, if you prioritize your goal, and it is based on that method called SMART, specific, we talked about that earlier, attainable, having resources. If you base your goals on these methods, and the goal is important, psychology is there, probably some genetic composition, and they're affecting whether we choose one way or the other, but you have that confidence, you have that goal in mind, you visualize that goal, then you can beat every odd.
So I want to add smartness, right?
Yes.
Some people are so smart, they plan accordingly, right?
Yeah.
So few years back, I studied Bhagavata, the epic Mahabharata, where Lord Krishna preaches his disciple Arjuna, do your karma, don't wait for reward. And here we're talking about instant gratification, which is basically a reward. So how does this go together?
Like I said, it is really hard to avoid these temptations because they are so gratifying, right? The burgers are so good, pizza is so good, Coke is so good. It is hard to practice what Lord Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, karma nivadikaraste mafalesu kadachana, right? Do your karma, don't expect the result. But we're living in the age of everything instant, right? We talk a lot about being physically fit and all that, and US is the country with the highest rate of obesity in the world. Because everything that you build in this country has a drive-through, whether you go to the bank or you go to a restaurant, right? And it is so convenient for us that we have become so complacent. And we want to live a laid-back life. We have couches, right? We want to come home and sleep on the couches with some popcorn and watch some games, right? So with a lot of options available, right, that distract us from long-term goals, it is easy for us all to fall victim to instant gratification. So this is the world we live in, right? It is hard to go and study for 8 years and become a doctor than, you know, working in a warehouses and make $15 an hour, come home and, you know, live in your apartment relaxed, because you don't have any mental pressure and all that. So what they say is that if you are in pursuit of comfort, that ruins your life. Let me give you an example of the country of Israel. It is surrounded by hostile neighbors, right? Saudi Arabia, Iran, and all these countries that even want to annihilate this country. And there we go, a small country with a few million people in it. It is one of the most advanced in agriculture and military hardwares and satellites and all that. Because when we are in a situation where we gotta defend ourselves,
do and die situations.
Yeah, in do and die situations, right? We don't choose to go for instant gratification. We do everything in our power for our spiritual and material growth. We want to be better. We want to better ourselves. So there you go.
So as you talked about the spiritual power, I have a question for you on that also, which is the gratification into material life versus the spiritual life. As we talked about, you know, Gita, where Krishna says don't look for results right away or the reward, but this gratification, should we avoid completely and look for this spiritual path where we don't even care about these results or any gratification at all? Is it possible?
It was possible for Siddhartha Gautama. It was possible for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It was possible for Prabhupada. It was possible for Sadguru Sri Devachandra Ji, Mahamati Prana Ji, and many renowned spiritual figures that we read about or revere. So it is not as easy because you are doing something different than most people are. That's why you find a lot of people in the movies, but if you go to the church, right, if you go to a religious function, there won't be that many people, or at least not many people that are interested in what's going on. They would go there to meet a friend, to have a chat with them, or for social interaction. But to learn something and have that spiritual blessing that comes from understanding what's happening around, it is something hard. So for that spiritual experience, do you have to give up your material pursuit or not, is another question. There are only few people who could ever renounce everything, the urges of sense gratification, and totally indulge them in spiritual pursuits and all that, and those are renowned people. A lot of people come in between. We enjoy the material world too, and then do some part of spiritual pursuits too. We go to church on Sunday, we go to our temples, we go to our mosque and all that every now and then to stay in contact with the divine, at least intermittently. So we can experience the blessings of the both world, material and spiritual. It is just that we gotta find a balance between the two. Having said that, the ultimate realization is that all the material possessions, material accomplishments, all the successes, all the power that you get over the course of your life are all temporal. Once you die, there's nothing that you take with you to wherever you are going, heaven or hell, or I don't even know if they exist, right? So the reality of life is death is inevitable. Nobody can avoid it. And There's nothing that you can take with you, your fame, everything. You live here. So if there is another world, a spiritual world, and deeper spiritual experience awaiting you, should you not pay more attention to that? Always pursue for higher goals. Be successful, be wealthy, make as much money as you want. But don't forget the other part of you, the spiritual side of you, the self that keeps you alive, the self because of which you have all this. If it was not there, the life throbbing inside you was not there, then you would not have anything. You would be called a dead body, you would be called by a number, you won't be known by a name. So think for that self, think for that soul. Once you do that, you can live in harmony between the both worlds, and that is possible. But if you can't renounce everything and totally dedicate yourself to spirituality, I don't think there is anything more rewarding than that.
The great entrepreneur Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, says this is the age of internet. Instant, right now, everything right now. So for our viewers watching, what could be the instant takeaway out of this talk show?
There are a lot of tips to avoid instant gratification and develop that attitude of delayed gratification, right? One of the most important things that you can take away from this conversation is to understand the importance of delayed gratification, because the things that give us instant gratification are not rewarding in a long term. The ease of comfort versus the pain of patience that we talked about. There's some pain, there's some sweating, there's some frustration, there's some helplessness. There are failures that come immediately from your actions, right? But if you choose to avoid them altogether and live a life of comfort, then you go nowhere. There's no personal growth. There's no material spiritual growth. There are not bigger accomplishments that you can get out of it. So understand how important it is to study 5 hours in a library and become a doctor versus staying home watching TV and be nowhere and not get that recognition, right? So understand the importance of delayed gratification. That is the most important thing you can do to avoid instant gratification. A lot of times what we do, the next one, is that we justify our actions. We justify our crave for instant gratification, and what we do, we procrastinate a lot. We'll do it next day. Stop justifying that. If you plan something, do it, because that builds up your confidence. And the confident person, we quoted Theodore Roosevelt, right? Believe you can and you are halfway there. So the confidence comes from accomplishments, and smaller things can give you that confidence and you can reach your goal. Create a reward system, right? When you accomplish a part of your goal, reward yourself. Treat yourself something. Go out on a vacation, right? Let's say your goal was to lose 20 pounds in a matter of 3 months, right? And you divided that into sections and you said, okay, let me lose 5 pounds in a month. If you do so, give yourself a treat. Have a ice cream dinner with your significant other, whatnot. So creating a reward system helps you, avoid the craving for instant gratification. And when you set your goals, one of the things that you can do is to prepare for short-term pain, because failures are going to be on your way. Studying so many hours in the library is not fun. You may have headache, but you still have to prepare for your exams and presentations. And you should always anticipate them. And if you try to avoid them, you will not reach your goal. So prepare for your short-term pain. You can consider long-term consequences for your actions, right? So you have an exam tomorrow and you say, okay, let me sleep 2 hours. And you ended up sleeping 4 hours. You don't have enough time to prepare for your exam. You fail the exam, and what happens, right? So although they are instantly gratifying for your long-term goals, the consequences can be disastrous. So analyze what your comfort can do in a long run. Keep yourself accountable. Identify potential obstacles that come in your way, that distract you or that hinder you from reaching your goal, and develop that long-lasting motivation. When you have it, then you keep going, you persevere.
Nothing is stopping you.
Nothing's stopping you. So my last thing, the message to take away home is that you don't want to live a life with a fading memory full of remorse, regrets, and unfulfilled expectations. So avoid instant gratification at all costs. Visualize your goal, keep working, keep yourself motivated, and stay focused on your goal.
Awesome. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. See you in our next episode. Have a blessed day. Thank you.
Thank you.